Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's conversation on the Hearts of Men podcast, hosted by the community. We're your hosts for this evening's conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach, and I'm affectionately joined by my brothers. Below me, you have Mr. Tawami Gaddy himself, otherwise known as the son of Timothy or the available man. Beside him, we got our funky uncle, brother, brother Garfield Martin, the uncle with the funk, the Uncle Junior himself, the consistency coach, and above him, you have my other brother, Mr. Roland Walker, also known as Poor Man's Dr. Phil, because shift happens. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this fine Friday evening?
I'm doing good. I'm ready. I tell you, I look forward to my Fridays. I look forward to seeing y'all faces, man, and the people in the chat, and just going, you know, adding to the community. I love it.
Good.
Yeah, same here, man. I miss these Fridays. I miss being over here all the town doing football stuff. But like Roland, man, just miss being here. Well, like I look forward to this time. I understand the value of imparting and adding value to each other as men and just as people in general. So I always look forward to being here, man. So as always, man, I appreciate you for having me.
Hey, man, it's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Man, I just echo everything my brothers just said. When you get in the community like this and you come live and you look at this chat, I realize, man, we living in abundance. People are prosperity, not things. So I'm appreciative, Doc.
Hey, man, I appreciate that as well. And just to kind of echo what you said, man, we appreciate everybody who joined us, everybody that's in the chat. Again, want to give you shout out by names because, again, we appreciate you being here because we recognize you can be any place else, but you decided to hang out with us tonight, and we do not take that for granted. So, Nick D, good to see you and welcome to this evening's show. Crystal Everett, Cassandra McKenzie, May Bird, Miss Bernadette Simmons, Michelle Ray, Miss Ravonda Jackson, as always. Just awesome. Miss Felisa Capers, Miss Adrian Walter, good to see you. And if I have not called your name, I think I called you Lisa Keys, but if I did not, Lisa Keys, welcome to this evening's show. And listen, if anybody else who is out there who have not gotten in the chat, go ahead and get in the chat and just speak so that we can acknowledge you by name because we want to do so. Also, if this is your first time joining us, look in the lower right hand corner of your screen, locate that YouTube symbol, put your cursor on that, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the notification button because you need to make sure that you know every time that we go live. Real quick, just wanted to hit the public service announcements. Again, we're still closing out our monthly giveaway. Again, the month of November is gone. Now we're working on December. This is the first week of December, so you only have a few weeks left. Again, to become eligible, make sure that you go to www.totalmindsetshift.com and just register to become a member on the site. Then go to the community itself, go to the community tab, and then you will be invited to the general chat. And then in the top, there's a message pinned at the top where you can locate the submission form for the month of December. Fill out the submission form with your question that you want us to ask for that week's podcast. And when we ask your question, you'll be entered into that month's drawing. Now, here's the deal. You have to get it in before the end of the month. This is the last month we're doing it. So make sure that you get your questions submitted before the end of the month. That way, again, I can't give you credit for a question, for a show that's already took place. Again, go to www.totalmindsetshift.com so that you can actually become a part of the community and you get to participate in all of the giveaways that we tend to do. Now, before we get into this conversation, I want to make sure that I put out a disclaimer. We are all, everybody on this panel, we are all subject matter experts of our own perspective. I don't want anybody to feel as though anything that we're telling you is medical advice or anything of that nature. No one on here is a medical doctor, right? This is all talking from the perspective of awareness. I want to make sure I'm saying that. So, that being said, today, we're diving deep into a topic that touches many, yet is often whispered about in the shadows: seasonal affective disorder, otherwise known as SAD. But we're approaching it with a twist of empathy and understanding. Can you imagine the vibrant colors of summer slowly fading into the mute tones of autumn and then into crisp, stark beauty of winter? For many, this transition isn't just a change in scenery, but a profound shift in feelings, energy, and moods. That's what we're exploring today. Picture a seed of empathy, planting it deep in the soil of understanding. As we nurture this seed through our journey today, it will blossom into a beautiful tree of support and compassion for those experiencing sad. Join us in this expedition where we'll not only discuss what sad is about, but also how to empathetically navigate through it, whether it's touching your life directly or someone you care about. We'll blend heartwarming stories, cutting edge insights, and practical, actionable strategies. And here's the exciting part. I'm thrilled to extend an exclusive invitation to you to you, our cherished viewers, to join the Diamond Club in a community. Here we share, grow, and support each other in our collective journeys. It's a place where your voice is heard, your experiences are valued, and your growth is nurtured. So again, hit the like button, subscribe for more life transforming content, and don't forget to share this video with someone you who might need it, who might need that extra bit of understanding and warmth today. So let's spread this light together. Now, first and foremost, I kind of want to start off with, you know, just like some did you know stuff, right? Seasonal affective disorder is a form of depression, also known as SAD, seasonal depression or winter depression. In the Diagnostic Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSM-5, this disorder is identified as a type of depression, major depressive disorder, or seasonal pattern. People with SAD experience mood changes and symptoms similar to depression. The symptoms usually occur during fall and winter months when there is less sunlight and usually improve with the arrival of spring. The most difficult months for people with SAD in the United States tend to be in January and February. While it is much less common, some people experience SAD in the summer. Statistically speaking, SAD is more than just winter blues. The symptoms can be distressing and overwhelming and can interfere with daily functioning. However, it can be treated. About 5% of adults in the United States experience SAD, and it typically lasts about 40% of the year. It is more common among women than it is men. SAD has been linked to a biochemical imbalance in the brain prompted by shorter daylight hours and less sunlight in winter. As seasons change, people experience a shift in their biological internal clock out of step with their daily schedule. SAD is more common in people living far from the equator, where there are few daylight hours in the winter, so forth and so on. So we kind of want to, because this is depression, right? And so we kind of want to just dive into it first. Let me just ask this question before we get into the scenario. Like, any of you, do you know anybody or have you ever dealt with seasonal affective disorder or seasonal depression?
I don't know anybody who was personally diagnosed. Um, I've probably seen people who may have shown some signs and symptoms, but like you mentioned in the disclaimer, I'm no doctor. So what I would do is I would kind of sort of speak for myself. And you mentioned it, you kind of not steal my thunder because at the end of the day, this is your show. But when you start talking about the military aspect of it, all of us was in the military and being deployed, at one time. I remember at one time I was for 15 months. And so during that time, there's Christmas and different holidays that come up. And a lot of times you have a makeshift family of people that you have engaged with or came close to or built relationships with, and you spend time with them. But it's still not the same as being around your wife or your kids or anything like that. So for me, that might be a small version of sad. I wasn't diagnosed with anything and it wasn't something that was every single day. It may have been moments throughout the day or through certain times or something like that. So um, that's what I want to say about it. But I know we're probably going to talk more about military later on, so I'll just leave it at that.
Gotcha.
I don't. I wouldn't be able to actually identify it as whether it was seasonal or whatever. I do know people who have dealt with depression. Period. Um, Me in my younger years, right before coming into the military, I was I was going through counseling, probably around like from like 13 to a young adult for for depression and stuff. But I don't know if I can pinpoint anything that I've seen seasonally, and maybe it's just something I didn't pay attention to because it wasn't an acronym that we used too much of when I was growing up. Um, but so I'll just stay there. Not that I can identify.
Gotcha.
I think I don't. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on every fifth Wednesday of the month. No, I'm just kidding. But I got to be stupid.
Of
But
course.
uh, I recognize when I leave from the South and fly home, like say fly to Detroit, fly to Chicago, Cleveland area, any of the northern cities, because there's a haze over everything. You get off the airport, everything is gray. It's like you just went from Coco Cabana to Gotham City, and the people are depressed. Everybody is on edge, and you just feel it. So going from, especially being from there, and then coming down south, and then now you are, your sense of awareness and everything is the same, but you go there, and it's like, whoa, everybody's like this, because I know what it is like to be depressed. And one thing about being a black person and that whole depression thing, we ain't going to no doctors. We're not going to get treated. We're not going to get looked at. We're going to go get a bottle. We're going to go get something to help us navigate through it. Think we're helping ourselves navigate through it. But I haven't known anybody that I think that were diagnosed with.
But you definitely brought up a good point though, Ro, because I probably couldn't tell you that the seasons changing and growing up in New York really affected my mood or anything like that. But I know for personal experiences going on R&R, traveling back home in the winters or the later parts of the fall, it is definitely a haze over the city that I didn't notice growing up there. It was just winter for us. But you definitely right. Every time I go back home in the cold and in the colder months, things is different. People seem angrier and more aggressive. I don't know. Yeah, but but you have a point there.
A coach having some technical issues, so I'll continue for a little bit. Um, how many of y'all think that SAG could be part of a larger problem, such as programming or other things, different like other things like that?
I think it is part of a larger problem, and the larger problem could be like for me growing up, one of the problems that we dealt with was expectations, because we had expectations to, around this season, family gets together. But if you don't have family, or if mama died, daddy died, now you have situations where it's on your mind now. Now you're thinking, oh, such and such ain't gonna be here this year. So you start thinking about this. And when you can't necessarily afford the expectations of your loved ones, they want the stars, the moon, and all you can give them is a shingle off the roof. So it becomes a burden on you to go out and get something, to go out and do something, to make something happy, just to put a smile on your loved ones' faces.
You know what? Can I be um can I be a little bit transparent here tonight, Coach?
Sure.
I think he's all right. So since about the summertime, I've been planning to have something at my house for around Christmas time. I have currently alive, I have one brother and I have three sisters, and my mother is still alive. So it's a total of six of us who are still alive. We're in our 40s. All of us, the kids are in our 40s. My oldest sister is 50 and my mom is in her 60s. And like I said, since the summer, we've been planning to have a get together or something like this. Well, at the end of the day, it's only going to be half of us now. So I talked to my mom today. I talked to one of my sisters today, and one of the things that I mentioned, good, bad, or indifferent, is that it's frustrating. I'm tired, and I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to host or put out there anymore that I want to do something as a family because it can't work. Me and all of my siblings, we are at 3 to 3.5 hours apart from each other. So I guess when I was expressing to them that I was kind of fed up with it, whatever, like this, we talked and they gave me some good feedback and stuff like this. But I guess what I want to say is that, it gets like that because, with the programming, when we grew up, it was a bunch of kids. So our dad always instilled in us, reach out to your family. When we got older, spend time with your sisters, call your brother, you know what I mean? Different things like that. He would call and talk to us, and he'd be like, man, I feel so happy today because I got to talk to all of my kids. So we were kind of programmed early that family is important. And now that we can't get together, I feel not depressed, but I get sad, not in the same sense, but I feel sad sometimes because it can't happen. And I want to be around my family sometimes during this time, but good, bad, or indifferent is not always able to happen. And because I spent 20 years in the military, I missed a huge chunk of time trying to build and develop those relationships with my siblings and stuff like that because I had my own family and I was bouncing around across different states and different countries. So I think, in a little bit that programming has, I don't know if it's good or bad or what, but it's sometimes when the holiday season comes around, I want to be around not only my wife and my sons, but I also want to be around my siblings and stuff. And it kind of sucks sometimes when those things can't happen or they don't happen. So, like I said, it's not anything to where I need therapy or anything like that, but just on a low scale, it is kind of frustrating sometimes when you want to have these relationships and stuff and they're not always able to manifest. And like I said, I think it may be due to the programming that was instilled in us as young to, be around your family and especially during the
Yeah.
holidays and stuff.
Yeah. And again, I apologize for my, my internet. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gaddy.
Oh no, you good, coach. Um, now, so when it comes to the holiday, when you add that factor into the season, I think programming is definitely a big part on a major scale because many of us were programmed that holidays have to look like this and you have to do this, you got to cook like this, and if you don't have these big men, like even when you're a young private in the barracks, everybody's trying to get together and cook stuff. And it's, you can go to the DFAC when they're doing something big, or we used to have those uh in the community areas. uh, you had those kitchens and the day rooms and everything. We in there, we trying to do big stuff because it's supposed to look like this. Half of us don't even know each other or like each other, but we got common friends, so we doing it together because this is what we were told. And so when you can't be around family, it plays a part. Um, but I think just overall, when it comes to programming, for me, when I hear terms that groups us together in a feeling, right? Because to be honest with you, when I thought about it, like sad and with this season and it's starting to change, then I started finding myself, even like I promise you, just in the scope of us getting ready to come on, I find myself searching in inwardly and seeing if I'm supposed to feel depressed because it is not as much sunshine, and I'm like, no, but even sometimes knowing that something is a general thing is programming enough to cause us to feel like we're supposed to feel a certain way. Something wrong with me if I'm not excited when everybody else is excited, or if I'm not sad when everybody else is sad, if I moved on to my so some I would say just in the whole scope of the conversation, programming can definitely play a major part in how some people feel. You know, even just think about it. Like we friends, we all brothers on here. And if you tell me I might like somebody, but you say that you don't like it, and y'all all agree y'all don't like somebody or a platform or whatever. A part of me is going to feel like, why don't I feel the same way? Why don't I dislike this person? And a lot of times, what happens is we tend to dislike people for the sake of the people around us don't like them. So I think that that's a smaller scale, but you know there's a term for it, and I know Coach gonna bring it up, uh, but you know those general ideas of feelings or behaviors is a part of our our overall programming, and it causes us to feel a certain way and behave a certain way.
Yeah, I think the term that you're looking for is groupthink. And when it comes down to it, and we've heard it, we have spring fever. The flowers start blooming and things of that nature, and then everybody goes on vacation during the summertime. So it's like outside fun in the sun, and guns out, fun, suns out, guns out, stuff like that. So it's all these different types of terminologies that equate to going outside and getting the sun on your skin and feeling that vitamin D. But in the winter month, the things that we think about is like being in the house, a warm fire. You got what's the dude to sing the song? Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Stuff like that. Nat King Cole. I'm sorry. You have chili. You have all these different things that equate to being in the house. That equates to being around family members, assuming that we have great family dynamics and great relationships within our family. And so when you see it on TV, you're seeing how these families on TV are getting along, and you may not necessarily have that, then it can become a huge problem. It can become a huge issue when it comes down to your interaction with your own family, and then you can somehow get into a very depressive state just simply because that year comes around. I think that's a form of it as well. Unc, I like the fact that you brought the military into it because I had the unfortunate experience of being deployed during, Christmas and all that other great stuff. And it's not the same thing, but it's situational, right? Being in that particular situation, I'm not gonna lie, I miss being home. I miss watching my kids open presents. And so that's a time I can't turn back the hands of time and get it back. So I get that as well. I think when we start looking at these things and going into the conditioning aspect that can lead to a form of depression, I think it's significant. I think we collectively can do a better job at having better relationships within the family. But then by that same token, I can't force certain people in my family to want to be relatable. Some people just feel that they are who they are and deal with it, accept it as it is. And, that sounds great, but at the end of the day, I ain't fit to do that. Um, so I think that's a great segue into where we're going because we get to talk about now. I'm going to tell on myself, right? I've been watching Yellowstone. I've been getting into Yellowstone, and I like it. And so we're going to talk about Yellowstone tonight, y'all, simply because this is a conversation about depression. And I think if you've ever seen Yellowstone, I think we can conclude that there's some very interesting family dynamics in there. And they live in Montana, who get the opportunity of some experiencing some of these situations that we're talking about. So the winter blues with the Dutton family. So the Dutton family lives in a northern region, hypothetically speaking, right? Where the winters are long and cold and have limited daylight. Now, I think if you've ever seen Yellowstone, we're just going to kind of talk it through real quick. I think if you've ever seen Yellowstone, you've seen the winters, you've seen the snow, you've seen them go from the snow to the summer, you've seen the creeks flowing, you've seen what they had to do on the farm, on the Dutton Ranch, and things of that nature. But what I want to kind of quickly discuss as well is like their family dynamics. And I think if you've ever seen it, you can understand that it's very unique. And so I'm gonna take John, and John is the father on Yellowstone, right? John is a dude that is very detached from emotions. I think we can conclude that when you've actually seen it. He has a hard time expressing himself. He lets his daughter get away with murder. And he is very hard on, and I'm just going to say one of his sons, right? If you've seen the entire stuff, you know what I'm talking about. He is very hard on him. But his younger son Casey, they have, in my opinion, I think they have the best relationship when it comes down to like father and son dynamics. He lost I think he lost two sons. He lost his older son. He lost one. Okay, his older son. He lost his older son. And there was a snippet to where he actually lost his father as well. All taking place on the ranch. I want to make sure that we understand that. All taking place on the ranch. John has never left the ranch. That's the key, right? So all this taking place on the ranch. And one of the big sticking points for me is that he wants to eat at the family table. And one of the highlights for me is that the kids collectively don't want to eat at this table, especially the daughter. The daughter hates this table, right? It's always something that happens at this table. Like she finds a way to leave the table. She'll start an argument so she can leave the table. The other son, um, he gets kicked off from the table by the daughter all the time. So it's interesting, right? And so what I want us to kind of like do is use their family dynamics as we go through this conversation when it comes down to seasonal affective disorder. Now, by all means, please, if you've seen the show in the chats, by all means, add your commentary. We're looking forward to seeing them, and I'm enjoying this already. So, first and foremost, we want to kind of go over observations and recognitions. Now, first question I want to throw out is how can families like the Duttons develop awareness and recognize the early signs of seasonal affective disorder, considering the diverse ways it can manifest in different age groups? Now, I also want to set the conditions before we get into this because I would say, especially for us, I don't I don't think I knew what it was years ago. I don't think I could have identified it as seasonal affective disorder in any of my children. I think I would have just thought something was bothering them. I probably would have went and talked to them, and then whatever, we probably would have found a way to try to do something to make them feel better. So how can families like the Duttons develop awareness and recognize the early signs?
See, Yellowstone is my thing, and it's right up my alley. And I think that the ranch or even the table, it represents them coming together. But for them, none of them know how to deal with their own issues. So when they sitting at the table, I'm looking at an issue across from me. I'm looking at uh, a father who made me go to school and he don't want me to be this and he wants me to be that. And the father's looking at disappointment. He's looking at rejection. So I think that's our families. I don't care what part of I'm from up north, Gaddy from up north, you from the south, he from the south, and we all of our families, you know, all of our families have a dynamic where we we don't talk about it. We don't want to talk about our issues. You can't talk about it outside the house because you get slapped in the mouth. Then you can't talk about it to me because you ain't grown or whatever. You've been told as a kid, shut your mouth and just mind your business. This grown folks' business until you old enough to know that I don't want to be a part of that. So I'm not being a part of the family dynamic. And that's what happens now. We want to say, hey, we all gonna come together and be a family because we think we see it in our head and this is how it's gonna be. But if this sister get with that sister or that brother and they get together, it's toxic and it's the whole environment is toxic. Somebody gonna say something, flip it, and this person don't listen to anybody. So it's gonna be a toxic environment. So it's hard to come together as families, and things are wrong, but nobody want to say it as a collective. We'll say it to our favorites, but we won't say it as a collective. And that's one of the problems that we have, that we won't talk our stuff. We're talking to single people, but we won't just put it out on the table so that we can dialogue about it because we scared to hurt. Oh, Big Mama, you keep eating those sweet potato pies and you going to talk about you got the sugar. And, it's like you can't talk about stuff because you ain't grown enough yet. I'm 50 years old and I don't have any grandparents or anything like that. So I don't have anybody but my mother to say, well, you ain't grown enough. Like, what? How old do I got to be concerned? So, and I think that's where we got to open the doors to show that we are allowing people to be concerned for us and listen to sound advice.
So let me make sure I'm understanding before we move on. What I'm hearing you say is communicate honestly first. Then that will help us to better to easily identify when somebody is going through some type of seasonal depression.
Yes.
Okay, great. And for the record, Uncle Junior's from the South-ish. He ain't from the South.
He said Mason Dixon line is up here.
Look, Virginia is the most southern, is the most northern of the southern states if you add them up.
Oh
He
my
Or we
just
could
God,
be the
man.
East
happened to
Coast
be on
if
the
you don't
East
want to.
Coast too. So
See.
You you ask us in New York, Virginia, the South. It's the start of the South to
There
us.
you go. See, that's the
So,
start of the South.
all right, back on task. Back on task. Uncle Gaddy, what you got?
Go ahead, Gaddy. I'm still thinking.
um. So for me, I think one of the major issues, right, that we have is that in our community, right, either you if you're in the if you're in the hood up north or in poverty up north, right, we don't like the term hood no more, but if you're in poverty up north or you in the country in the south, sometimes which can also be in poverty, right, but sometimes we don't have enough information for awareness. um I always talk about family and community in the aspect of we always teach our or we were always taught in our family to make it out, and out always seems to be away from our people, away from each other, away from our community, away from our family. All right, that's the way that we make it, right? The way other cultures make it is they make it together, they bring resources back to each other. So go get educated, go to school, go graduate, but our community need these same things that are that construct what we call social engineering, but we never bring those necessities back to our communities. We don't have people who went to school for medicine, we don't have people who went to school for psychology or counseling, or and those people don't live in our communities in large like that. So it's almost as if we're exiled from a certain level of information. And like a lot of, we could sit here and we could talk and we could say we've heard of this, that, this, and this, but we've all been exposed to a plethora of cultures and of ideas and of people due to the fact that we were in the military, right? So when we talk about what can we do to raise a wit, now the Duttons ain't got as much of an excuse, right? Um, they got a little bit of relevancy and exposure to their surrounding community, but we have to be able to get information and come back and share information. And not only that, because we see it happen on holidays when the cousin that did go to school to be a counselor or psychiatrist or psychologist, right? They come back and they start sharing what they've learned. What do we do? Ah, you think you better than us. Ah, whatever. Don't nobody want to hear that. Ah, this the holidays. Let's not talk about that. But they're trying to tell you that there's real problems going on that the holidays ain't fixing, and we shun it away. And so it's two folds. So that's me. That's my take.
I like it. I like it.
I think just in general, if you're trying to develop a certain level of awareness, it involves you taking a look at yourself. You know what I mean? And then it involves you looking at like your surroundings and the people that you are in contact with on a regular basis. And let's be honest, we talk about the Duttons. I'm on, I got a couple episodes left of season 5. They are who they are at the end of the day. I don't think that I'm not saying that there's no hope for these guys. And of course, there are fictional characters on the TV show. But, I mean, these people have been this way since they were kids, since they were, you know, through all of the tragedy and everything going on. And in order to develop a certain level of awareness, you have to, like I said, look at yourself in the mirror and and look at your surroundings, and then be able to make adjustments and stuff like that. So them jokers, they stuck. There ain't nothing they can do. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, I mean, sometimes people are going to be who they are, and I don't think these people are really looking to change who they are. And let's be honest, good, bad, or indifferent, they still have kept that wrench in the family for a long time, being who they are. You know what I mean? So that's my 2 cents.
I was seeing if Dwayne was going. If now you said, see, and that's one of the problems when other people expect for you to be the same person you were back when you were in high school and elementary school, because, or you have the dynamic where they expect you to be the same simply because they've never grown past where they are. Some of our relatives, they still live in the same 10-mile radius while you've traveled the world. You've seen different things. You can speak certain languages and so forth, and you've grown. And so when they see you, they see a part of themselves that never developed. So that's depressing as well. When you can see that, man, he done been all over the world, been to Korea, been to, you know, everywhere. He been to New Mexico and everything, and I've never left Virginia. I'm still here. The furthest I go is the Piggly Wiggly. So then it comes off in a how they say it, in a fashion where they saying something trying to be funny but trying to be cute, and they trying to make you the butt of the joke, but it's them really hurting and trying to just push a little off on you and some comedy, and you don't like it, so you tend to fall back because, like, I ain't got to be around this mess. I ain't little Ro no more. Like, they used to call me some, they still do, Ro, a little Ro, and it's like, dude, I'm grown. Like, I got cousins who I didn't know their name, their real names, until we got grown. So it's like, come on. So some people just don't want to grow, or don't like seeing the growth in you because it shows the inadequacies in themselves.
Like you brought up something that's like real to me. Like, so I remember when my mother, at the end of her life, she hit a real deep depression and stopped taking care of herself, stopped taking meds, and she passed away eventually, right? Um, Not sad. It happened a long time ago. We saw it coming. So it sucks. You still wish your parents were here, um, but when it happened, when she first hit that deep depression, a part of it made me think, did I help play a part? Right. And the reason why is because I remember, so when I was 12 years old, when we had to go live with my aunt. And so when my mother came back into my life, even before I went active duty, I'd had 3 jobs. I was in the National Guard, doing orders, and I had money in my pocket always, right? At this time, for this little period, then I went active duty. But so when me and my mother started talking again, we met back up, and I was going to see her. There was moments where she would try to do things for me and give, oh, here goes some money, go and get some food and get something to eat. I used to be like, Mama, I got money. I'm gonna go get you something to eat. Right. For me, that's what I was doing. I wanted my mama to see I was doing something. I was becoming somebody. I had a couple of dollars. I could buy my mama some lunch. So, put some groceries in her house. And I saw, as I played it back in my head, I saw a look in her face that was, it's not that she wasn't proud, but it hit her that she couldn't still, when you talking about I'm not who I am no more, like she missed those years of taking care of me. She missed those years of me being her baby boy. And so Now when she's acquainted again with her children, we're grown and we're working and we're doing things. And now for me, I'm proud to be able to reintegrate with my mother and buy her something to eat. But that play, you could look in her face and see that that played a major part. And so I think you're right. A part of it too is that we don't like people or to feel like people that were younger than us or smaller than us or whatever have outgrown us as people.
I want to go back to Raymond over here, but we're gonna make it do what it do. Um, so Unc, you said that that's just how they are. They've had years and years and years of practice being dysfunctional, and that's just what it is. And I like the fact that you said that. Because sometimes we can be so conditioned to bad behavior that whenever it gets to the point that somebody start behaving in a more positive sense, we think something is wrong with them. um, I would say one of the means that we can do, like I like the fact you say, I need to look at myself. I need to look at myself and be self aware and improve. But I also think, in conjunction with that, we need to be aware of the mannerisms of the people that's in our family. Understand what their behavior look like. What is normal behavior for them, so that when they're acting outside of that normal type behavior, we can clearly identify it. And if we are paying close attention, we can see when it happens. You know what I'm saying? We can identify that it happens. Like, I give you a perfect example. Like, when I was married, my stepdaughter, when her cycle came on, she became like a vegetable. It was like a mummy in the house. She would walk around with a black hoodie, the hood up over her head, tied tight, and then she would come out the room. She would eat. She'll go back in the room and get in the bed, and she would stay in there all day long. And when I first witnessed it, I'm like, "Well, okay, what's going on? Like, we need to go in and see what's going on." And during that time, my ex-wife, she's like, "No, don't mess with her. She's, you know, that's that time of month with you." I have no idea, and I have no experience with that. I have no training when it comes down to that. So that's who she is going to become. So understanding the people in your house and understanding how they behave during certain times of years, to certain times of the year or certain times of the month, in my particular scenario, it helps you to understand when something is wrong. And if you are consciously aware, you can equate it to during that particular type of season. Does it happen during the later part of the season, the Novembers, the Decembers, the Januaries, and the Februarys, right? Do it happen during that time of season, or does it happen during any other particular event? And that can kind of help us to understand what that person is going through. So that's why I wanted to kind of go back to what you were saying. And I think all of your points are valid points. Let's kind of grab some points from the chats real quick, because I know you guys are putting them in there. And again, I apologize for struggle streaming. I think we had a question that was highlighted. Verlene McCoy, Queen V, good to see you and welcome to the show. She asked, "How can we get over this feeling?" Gentlemen, let me kind of turn that over to you first, and you kind of give your perspective on how we can get over this feeling.
To clarify, it's the feeling of like being sad, like being like in a depressive state. Okay.
Yeah, how can you get to the point of this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I will say this, and I'll speak back to the military and different things like this. When I was in Iraq, and I was feeling sad and lonely and stuff like that, because at the time my ex-wife and my kids were in Virginia or wherever. I forgot where we was at, maybe Texas or something. And I was in Iraq, and yeah, I was around some people that I was just working with or had built relationships with, but it wasn't the same. And I would say one of the things that helped me was just that, being around other people, not going into seclusion, not just locking myself into my chew, that's the little rooms we stayed in, and getting out and doing something besides just being in it. When you're gone for 12 months or 15 months, that's a lot of time to be by yourself and to think. And you can think yourself into a depression because you can think about all of the things that you don't have and you can't do, while you're in Iraq. So, and then you multiply that or you compound that with it being seasonal, and you see stuff on the military network, and they got Christmas trees and turkeys and all these different things, and it's been advertised, and you see it and stuff, and you're like, man, everybody look like they're having a good time on Facebook, but we all here, getting mortared and different things like that. So, a lot of us would or probably did wish that we were at home and probably felt some sort of little mini depression or something like that during those seasonal times. But like I said, one of the things I think that helped me was just to be around other people who were going through the same thing. Because and when you're out there and y'all eating turkey dinner together on Christmas, everybody out there miss their mom and their daddy and their kids and their wife and husband. So you have that mutual connection between everybody. So like I said, just being around those people during those times can help you some.
A part of me wants to take the approach that it's weird how my mind is really wrapping around this one, because I try to think the things that have brought me into a depressed state have been more of like, and this was when I was younger, like the whole situation of not being able to live with my parents anymore. I had to go live with my aunt, who was the bougie. In our mind, she was the bougie. I'm better than the family aunt. She was the one. Uh, she was the one that that did a little bit better than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't want to go live with her. We didn't want to be bougie. We were hood kids, right? Lived in the Bronx, lived in Harlem, lived in Bed-Stuy. We didn't want to move to Staten Island. So there was a little rebellious state and era of life. But you know, the part of deployment and all that other stuff, I, I I've always found a way to change my way of thinking. And a part of me wants to say it's because I've gone through, and I hate to say that hard times makes resilient, allows you to learn how to make yourself more resilient to things. But for me, that's really what it was. I've gone through so many changes in life growing up. So I was able to shift my mind when I knew things was going. I knew I wasn't going to be home for the holidays. We were deploying in the beginning of December, so you already know ain't nobody to R&R during Christmas. That's a loss. That's a wash. New Year's, that's a wash. You know, so but for me, I always feel like that's a bad example, to learn how to shift your focus and your mind to accepting that reality as what it is. But for me growing up now as someone who don't really hang his hat on these holidays anymore, it's like, how can we find a way to, if it's family, how can we find a way to spend more time, more valuable time with family that's not predicated upon a season or a holiday? How can I, when the winter time comes, I can't get out and walk. That's true. But I for me, everybody probably can't do it, but I can go to the gym and get on the elliptical or on the treadmill, or I can, I have to be able to find a way to enjoy the things that I want to enjoy and I love to enjoy, so that my joy and my happiness or whatever is not predicated upon a season or a time. I don't know. That's the way my mind is wrapped around it. So I apologize if I did a poor job.
Never that. I, I'm glad you went to where I was going, shifting your mind, because when I say shift happens, I'm talking about shifting your mental, because we grow up internalizing everything. So when you internalize everything, we think when we get around everybody, when we get around a bunch of people, get around a bunch of family, we on the high. Yeah, that's just like you sitting up there drinking a Red Bull. or drinking a 5 hour energy drink. After you finish with that, you're gonna drop, you're gonna fall. So I've been the person who experienced depression, and I could be in a room full of people, I could be smiling, I could be joking, I could be just like Robin Williams was, I could be doing all these things and then feeling inside like I'm the loneliest person in the world because I wasn't happy with self. I wasn't content with self. I can portray it, but I wasn't it. So when you shift your mental, when you focus on the positive, I don't care if something negative happened. Okay, this negative happened, and this is a practice for me now. When anything negative happens, I think of what in that situation, three things to focus on that's positive about that situation, during this situation, and it shifts how I focus on it. Because where I would be, woe is me, now I'm like, man, I'm still blessed to be here. I'm still this because now I can shift my mind from the negativity to positivity and positive energy because you can be around people and you can say the right things, but you go home like, man, I still got these bills. Yeah, the bills still gonna be there. But if you have the ability, if you have the mental fortitude, if you have the intestinal fortitude to get up, you can make something happen positive. And until you have that positive mind, I don't care what goes on in your life because kids gonna be unhappy. It's not your fault. Wife gonna be unhappy. Husband gonna be unhappy. It's not your fault. When Will said it's not your fault to make other people happy, I felt that because I'm like, man, it's nobody else's fault. If I'm miserable, it's me because I'm taking everybody else's situation and I'm placing the blame and the onus on me. Like I can fix it, like I control it, like it's up to me, but it's not up to me to fix them. I fix me, I help you fix you. I help you work through, but I don't fix you.
I thoroughly enjoy everybody's perspective, and I'm gonna take a different approach because I'm agreeing with the positivity, but I also understand that we're talking depression. And sometimes when you're dealing with people, and not sometimes, a lot of times, when you're dealing with depression, it's not that easy. So the other side to it is where we got to kind of like help them bridge the gap as well, right? Sometimes you got to kind of like stand in the gap and help them to see the other side of it, kind of help them out of depressive state, get them moving, get them out of the bed, include them into things. And sure, they may turn you down, that's fine, right? But somebody in some place in that person's life, you got that friend, you got that sibling that can come in there and grab you and say, come on, let's get up. I'm going to take you with me right now. And I think it takes for us to care enough for someone else to actually take the necessary time and care to help them overcome the thoughts that they're currently experiencing. Laying in the bed is not going to help you. Continuing to ruminate on the thoughts that you're currently thinking about is not going to help you. To continue to recycle the situation over and over and over again is not going to help you. It requires a lot of time for someone to care enough about that person to help them get up, to help them move, to help them do something different, to show them that hey, you can actually have fun if you detach yourself from this thing. So I think that in conjunction with everything else, I think these are ways to actually overcome those things. And I'm agreeing with what everybody's saying, but I think it takes, and this goes back to the whole concept, I think it takes, this is where the community is missed, right? It takes a community to care about each other, where we look out for one another. Uncle Junior, I ain't seen you come outside today, bro. You good over there? How's everything going? I'm gonna come over there. Me and you gonna sit down and watch the game together, right? Go over to his house. He laid up in the bed. He ain't take a shower in 3 days. He depressed. All kind of stuff like that. So now, because I cared enough about him and picked me in. And if he don't, I got the key and I'm announcing I'm coming in, bro. I'm coming in. Because you got to realize if we don't do that, there is no telling what the other side of that looks like. So I think it's not just, automatically flipping the switch and going into positivity mode because I understand that it's not that easy for a lot of people. It's also where we care about each other, extending that right hand of fellowship and helping them to overcome the thoughts that they're experiencing. So all of that, but great question, Queen V, and I'm glad you asked that. Man, you guys are awesome. Even with me struggle streaming, you guys are pulling the weight, and I appreciate it. Nick D said, I learned to identify it first in the elderly population because that is mostly who I have worked with. It's like dealing with a different person from summer to fall. They even look different. I am so glad she said this. Um, because on the other side of it, we had, and I don't know about you guys, but I can say we had elderly people that we don't send them to the old folks home. We keep them in the home, right? So you get to see Big Mom, and you get to see, Uncle Charles or whatever the case may be, and you can see them how they start feeling any certain types of way during these particular seasons. And going off of Lisa's comment next, where she said, I think living in nostalgia, think about the elderly generation. They're thinking about the times that they spent doing with their families during these holiday seasons. And like Uncle Junior mentioned, I got my family. I'm out here. I'm doing my thing, and I can't get back every year. We were all in the military. We couldn't make it home every season. So imagine how they feel in those environments as well. So all great comments, and I appreciate you guys mentioning these things. Shell, good to see you, and welcome, and always welcome. Okay, moving on to the next talking point, family dynamics and communication. Now, we talked about some of the family dynamics and the lack of communication when it comes down to the Duttons. So the question is, does the Dutton family dynamics facilitate or hinder the recognition and discussion of these symptoms? And I'll put the symptoms in the chat here shortly. And if so, which I think we can pretty much agree to that, we've already said it. The question now becomes how.
Their family dynamic does facilitate it. And I think it's a real look at how the family dynamics are. I mean, it may be from their perspective on the ranch, but nobody wants to. The father don't want to. He's still living in the 80s. He ain't trying to move forward. The daughter is a forward thinker. The one of the sons, he's a forward thinker. The other son, he like, I ain't thinking about none of y'all. So I think as a family, they don't communicate. They talk, but they don't communicate at all, and that's the problem.
I think so. So let me give this disclaimer, right? Uh, and Roland beat me up last time we talked about this. I watched the first two seasons, and I took a break to try to find something else, and then you know, yeah, I know. And so I catch the episodes that I catch on when they come on, and it sucks because now it's hard for me to go back. So that's just my disclaimer. But I will say this: I like most of our families, and I think a lot of us can identify with it this way. They don't have a problem communicating it. They just don't communicate it well, and they're not listening. That's the other side of communication, right? Because they they they're quick to argue, and they quick to tell each other how they feel, or they quick as far as in a negative or aggressive or angry manner, you know. But they're not receptive. So I don't think it facilitates uh the just because you use the word discussion of sad. So not maybe not a discussion because it ain't going go two ways. And so I think we have to learn how to build our family dynamics in a way that we teach our next generation both how to express and how to receive. Um, and then you got to have somebody in that dynamic that knows how to corral all the different emotions that go on when it comes to siblings and bring some some point of level-headed thinking and corral everybody back together and say, hey, this is what's being said. Like uh coach brought it up, right? Not only did we keep Big Mama in the house, but Big Mama will always have a moment of clarity when it came to pulling everybody together and getting people right when things got out of order, and then go back to to doing what she's doing, right? At least my grandmother when as she got older. But it was whenever everything got crazy with her kids, she'll find that moment of clarity and say, all right, y'all calm down now. Y'all still brothers. That's still your niece. That's still your cousin. and then go back to being who she was. But yeah.
So, does the Dutton family dynamics facilitate or hinder the recognition and discussion of sad symptoms? Well, I would say that Beth, in particular, she has already pretty much identified all of these people and all of their shortcomings, and she's okay with it. Like, it's how can I put it? Like, she'll read Jamie up and down, she'll read her dad up and down. She knows exactly how these people are, which is a good thing because that right there in their own way, it does kind of help facilitate in their own twisted dynamics of the family. I think it's helpful for them because that's their family. But I think most other families, it's a hindrance, because like we on the outside, we can look at them and we can see that that's dysfunctional. And they probably can recognize that it's dysfunctional. But however, at the same time, it is has worked for them, good, bad, or indifferent. Or maybe it hasn't worked for them. But at the same time, like they're somewhat successful, even though they talk about how they don't have this and have that. Like they still got a chef. Beth still drives an Audi or something like that. So, I mean, I'm just saying it ain't all that bad. So, um, let me look at it again. Does the Dutton family dynamic facilitate or hinder recognition? If I would just pick one and just to go with a side, I would say it probably hinders. I would say it probably hinders it just because they don't want to have the conversation and they're not at a place where they can have and they're not at a place in the family where they can have those conversations and they be positive. They're usually going to end in somewhat negative way, or like you said, Beth is going to end up leaving the table and they're not going to have the conversation. So hindrance.
Okay, he's still up. Beth speaks from her pain. So when Beth speaks, she ain't caring about what anyone else has to say.
She not.
She can articulate her pain, and anybody else she's coming at them and attacking. And in communication, if you attack me, I'm not listening to anything you got to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how our families are. So if I go and I watch other people and their children, and it shocks me because I see children that are in my family, and I see their children where the children is fighting, and I'm not talking about fighting with words, fighting hands on parent, and I'm like, ain't no way. And I know without a shadow of doubt, my kids, I'm looking at them like, your daddy's still a little crazy. I can blame PTSD on a lot of things. You ain't that stupid the way you gonna raise your hand to me, and I raised you better. But when I'm looking at them, I'm looking from the outside. So when we look at these dynamics of other people, we don't know the pains that are on both sides. So when Beth is speaking from pain, Jamie caused her pain. He ain't thinking about that part. So until we can have a conversation, not a talk, we can have a conversation where you talk, I listen, I talk, you listen, and vice versa. We go through that. Then nothing gets solved. It becomes the dinner table again.
Yeah, you just gave Beth a get out of jail free card. I got it. She got some pain, but Beth is like toxic, narcissistic, in any other word you can. Like, no, I'm sorry. I understand what took place when y'all were kids, but you full grown adults at this particular point in time. You overcome that so that you can become a full function part of the family as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got it. And forget, let's not forget she asked him to take it. Now I got it, the kids. I'm not erasing that part. The kids, but to Jamie's point, Jamie's like, I did what you asked me to do. So I'm not willing. Now listen, I'm not saying that Jamie is a good person. I'm not saying that either, right? Both of them got their traits, but I think for her to spend the rest of her life blaming that young man for something that she got herself into at a young age and she asked for help. I think that's kind of disingenuous, in my opinion. Right now, does that mean that the pain that she exists does not the pain that she has does not exist? Nope, didn't say that at all. But she could have done, again, money isn't an issue for them because they got money. She couldn't afford to go to a counselor and all that other great stuff. She could have been open up to her father with that. And even at the point where she did talk to her dad about it. To John, I'm sorry that you felt that you couldn't come talk to me about that you would get in trouble. So that's when I gained a great deal of respect for him because he finally opened up and shared some sort of emotion. But no, I don't. To the question, no, I think their communication style hinders the ability to identify some of these things. I just think the way their family is set up, they have no desire to identify anything. They just
I'm with you, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm not giving her a get out of jail free card either. I'm saying that's what she's speaking through. That's why she can talk, but they can't communicate. They can't communicate with her because all she gonna do is rah rah rah, and everybody gonna shut that off. And so she's wrong for that. She's wrong for not. She has unresolved pain that she's not willing to go get the proper help. And some
Not
of us,
willing.
we have that.
Or maybe daddy allows her to continue to weaponize that pain from their childhood, and so it continues to become her weapon of choice.
But
Because
he
that
didn't
is
know.
the thing. Well, he know that they have issues.
Right, but
He knows that,
parents
and
think kids just don't get along.
and I think that's to Coach's point of asking the question. At some point, the conversation got to come up. There's something greater going on. You children grew up together on this ranch together, work together, and y'all can't have a conversation. Y'all can't eat a meal. So, at what point are the true adults, the old folks in this family, going to come together and say, "Hey, we got to sit down and discuss this thing"? But because she has been allowed, like they may not know. I get it. All right, he don't know what happened, but he knows that she is angered every time they get together, and he allows her to act that way. He allows her to jump on her brother, and Jamie goes right on back to his house with his family and his horse,
See, but
and
I told you, I
and
watched this thing, and see, I look at it like the father feels guilty because he's thinking that she's lashing out because she still sees herself killing her mother, and that's his problem. So now it's twofold. I'm thinking this, it's not really that, it's this over here. So instead of anybody actually dealing with something, everybody say, okay, we're gonna have dinner. You shut up, and she gonna stab Jamie in the leg, and then oh boy, he gonna run away. So it's like what's gonna happen? Come on, that's what she did.
But she don't need to change, and the reason why she's never going to change because she's benefiting. She's always benefited. There are no
that's my point.
consequences for her bad behavior.
You
Like
know
she
where
even went, she even went and got the dude that she wanted. You know what I mean?
but she's
Like,
changing now because now she has a kid and with issues. So now she has to communicate better, and you can see her father coming out in her with the kid. Tell you, I watched this thing.
Why he ain't helping
yeah.
Jamie with his?
But for the most part, up until where I got from it, like I said, she has a nice car. She get beat up. She don't die. You know what I mean? Rip comes to her rescue all the time. You know, regardless of her bad behavior, he still love her with her bad behavior. So
She don't
there's
act like that with
no,
him.
and her dad still loves her with her bad behavior. So there is no incentive for her to change or to do anything else. She is always going to be like that. She is being rewarded for bad behavior. So she is never going to change, and there is no incentive for her to change. So it's a huge hindrance. And she, but I can keep going on. Like I said, I've been watching it too, and it's fresh in my man because I didn't watch all of this within like the last 6 weeks. So it's still fresh in my head.
Hey, look,
Hey,
I'm
did
with
y'all
you.
see Uncle close the door in the conversation just now? It's
right,
it,
it's fresh in my head.
I love it though. I
Fresh.
love it.
Good.
I think we're
But
all agreed on this. But I'm sorry, go
But
ahead, bro.
yeah, to Lisa Key, she said best character is a beast. Absolutely. Best character is a beast.
I'm looking through the comments like y'all just got uh y'all just got them about 6 new binge watches this weekend.
Hey man,
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And if you haven't done it yet, start with 1883. Do 1883. Thanks, Adrian.
Mhm.
Do 1883, then go to
Yeah.
1923, then do Yellowstone. I'm telling you, it just really comes full circle. And if you're like me, you're gonna go online and find the family tree because some stuff didn't make sense until I got that. So just kind of putting that out there. I'm sorry, I like to be in the know. Okay. Um, let's talk about impact. I think we've been doing that already. Impact on children. Let's jump into broader implications so we can close this out because we down to now. Let's move down to broader implications. Broader implications and awareness. What can the Dutton Ranch scenario teach us about the broader societal understanding of seasonal affective disorder?
Unresolved issues will be like having a dirty diaper under the couch in the heat of the summer for months and months and months.
Dang.
If you don't deal with the problem, it's gonna stink, and everybody gonna keep saying, "Yeah, it stinks." But if until you lift the couch up and get it from under there and clean it up and remove it, it's gonna still stink. And that's what their problem is. No one wants to one communicate with the other person, and we all want to speak from our hurt place and throw that out there because it's our defense and offensive mechanism. And I think that we should learning from this part societally that as a family the older people must be healed first before they can help the younger because the father's still not healed, so he has no chance of helping the younger ones.
I'm gonna take leave the freshly watched experts, let them be last. Um but I would say we have to at some point, unlike Beth, be a part of our own healing process. Um and what I mean about that is more than, because sometimes you when you looking at your wound as a fresh wound, you really can't see whether or not what part you played in the whole scenario. And sometimes there's things that you need to heal from that you may not necessarily played a part in uh the hurting process, but in the lack of healing process, we've all played a part in ourselves not healing. And so sometimes you have to know. I think it comes a point to when you are holding people captive by your hurt and by your pain. I'm one of those people that if it's something that I can't get over right now, I'm just and this is me. It might not be right. I'll let the counselor and the coach uh, uh correct me. But I'm one of those. If I can't get over it right now, and it's going to cause me to change the dynamic of a get together. I will not get together. I'm that dude. You will not see me until I can get over it, because I will tell you about yourself as soon as you reach your hand out to shake my hand, because I'm mad at you. I'm gonna slap it. So I'm not even gonna come around, and I'm not gonna cause no drama, because and we know we do that. A lot of us know how, because we on our drive home to visit family, we say, if so and so say a word to me this Thanksgiving, boy, I wish. We go through it, and we recite every word and go through about 16 variants of how many of what we would say to that person if they try to talk to us, or if they disrespect my mama one more time, or if they, I, for me, it's either I need to learn how to deal with it, address it, or I just need to not be around until I can handle it correctly. And so for me, I stick right there. You know, I have to learn the part that I play in not healing. Uh,
What can the Dutton Rat scenario teach us about the broader societal understanding of sad or seasonal affective disorder? Here's what I was just thinking about. At the end of the day, we are on one side of this fence. We are either probably experiencing this, and if you're not experiencing this, you may be on the other side to whereas you may know somebody that is dealing with sad. So, what I say to that is know yourself and learn yourself and what your role is going to be in that whole situation. So, if you have a family member or somebody that's close to you and they are dealing with sad, you need to know what role you're going to play in that situation. Are you going to be an active participant in that person's life, or are you going to go on about your business? And I think that that comes down to knowing you and knowing yourself and knowing what you can and can't handle, and also knowing the other person. Maybe the other person is someone like who dealing with sad is someone like Beth. And maybe you choose to say, you know what? My family member, my person in my family is Beth, and I can't deal with that. Where I'm at in my life right now, and I can't handle that. So I'm just going to stay away. Or you may be the type of person like Coach, and you have everything together, and you be like, you know what? I got it. I'm gonna dive right on in, and this is the 2 cent, or this is the amount of participation that I'm going to have in this person's life to possibly help them get to from point A to point B. So like I said, I just think that when it comes to what the Dutton Ranch scenario can teach us about the broader societal understanding of sad is, like I said, knowing yourself and understanding yourself and figuring out which role you're going to play if you know somebody in this situation, and be comfortable with whatever role you decide to play. You don't have to help somebody out. You know what I mean? These are my thoughts. These are my opinions. But if you do decide to help somebody, what role are you going to play in helping somebody? Because there's levels to helping people when they're experiencing situations and illnesses and stuff like this, or going through depression, like Coach says. Not something that should be taken lightly.
Man, I like that. I like that. And my response really sounds a lot like that. I think it takes a healthy family dynamic, a environment to where each person has the ability to talk openly and honestly. And once that happens, then you should experience your children, your loved ones coming to you and telling you when they're not feeling their best and they just don't know what it is or they can't put a finger on it. Like that is a monumental thing. You should also be at the point to where you can notice the subtle changes in people's moods, their behaviors, their mannerisms, all of those things, because you spend the amount of time together and you took the time to learn each person individually. I know it's a systemic thing that we just like to kind of take everybody and put them in this nice square box, right? And once we put them in that box, like you're supposed to behave this way. When this thing's to happen, you're supposed to act this way. You're supposed to be able to pull yourself out of the muck and the mire and the clay. You're supposed to be able to do all of these things, right? But unfortunately, everybody from a psychological standpoint, they're not that strong, right? And it doesn't mean they can't get there. It's just that sometimes they think a little bit too much on the wrong side of certain things. They kind of stay in the emotional aspect of a scenario and they stay in it. Like they don't come out of it. They will listen to like slow depressive music so that they can think about the thing, and it kind of puts themselves in a situation of crying. Now this is depression, not just seasonal affective disorder. We have to be open-minded enough. We have to be honest enough. We have to be communicative enough to where we allow the flow of communication, right? When we start talking about the Dutton family ranch, like I understand John got some stuff he got to fix to daddy, but he needs to like squash whatever is going on between his children. No one cares if that young man was not necessarily John's. You guys took him in, you took him to the hospital, you got him checked out, you raised them. You don't get it is a disheartening thing for one parent to listen to their child tell that parent that they loathe the other child. Like that is some very serious stuff. And if the parent does not do the necessary work, be the bad guy for a minute. I'm sorry. And nobody cares. You're a parent. It's not liking. It's not about you being the good guy. It's about you gelling the family, right? So do the things that are necessary so that the family itself collectively can be whole, so that the family itself collectively can be healthy. And I think that's what it all boils down to. So long winded, I got it as I'm struggle streaming over here. But that's just my take on what this scenario can actually help us when it comes down to the broader scope of sad. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the last, our bittersweet moment because I'm struggling over here trying to keep this internet together with duct tape and 550 cord. So we're going to dive into it. We're going to start with, listen, we're just going to go around. We're going to start with Gaddy and just swing around. Okay. So Gaddy, Uncle Junior, Rolled and myself, and we're just going to call it a night. So Gaddy, sir, you have the floor.
Um, I would say a lot of what we deal with mentally, and it sounds like a simple fix, as if it's an easy answer. But for me, I believe it can be if we take the time to really invest ourselves and our life and our emotional state of being on the most high, right? I think what sad teaches us sometimes is that our environment, it kind of helps uh create a mood, right? And that's the thing about cultivating a proper environment for things to grow, for things to be enhanced, right? That's kind of what we see when it comes to seasonal, uh excuse me, the seasonal affective disorder. Is it affective? Yeah, affective disorder. What we see is that the environment around us is changing, and it causes more of a down mood, and certain things press upon us heavier than it would have in let's say a summer or spring, when we can go on spring break and kind of drown our sorrows in fun. Now you in this place to where you can't do as much, you can't be as much, but your mind has to be fixed in a sense, right? You have to be able to find joy and find peace outside of holidays, but that comes with creating that environment and that atmosphere in our life, in our surroundings, to where the seasons outside don't cause us to feel some sort of way. Because in here, everything is built upon the thing that gives me joy, and that's the Most High. That's His precepts, right? And that's His community that He calls us to be. Um, that's what I got. Love y'all.
Final thoughts. Today we're talking about navigating seasonal affective disorder with empathy. This today, as we are filming this live, it is December the 1st, 2023. And we are at the height of the holiday season. A lot of people are doing things. When we scroll our social media, there's a lot of decorations, a lot of Christmas, and there's a lot of expectations from other people as far as what we should be doing and how we should be living our life during this time of year. I first want to start off with saying, don't let that affect you. Don't start comparing yourself and what you have going on in your life to what someone else may have going on in their life. You don't know their situation and they don't know yours. So I think sometimes, not all the times, this sad comes from, or it can start with, excuse me, it can start with comparing yourself to what someone else may have, but you don't know exactly what they have. I know people who go on vacations all the time and their tags on their car expired 2 and 3 years ago. So with that being said, well, and I'll continue real quick, but like I said earlier, when it comes to sad, most people going to find themselves on one side of the coin. And if you decide that you're going to help someone and you're going to reach out a hand and try to support someone this, I would say that do your best to make sure that those things don't you don't take on their um what's the word? Take on their pain. And what I mean by that is like I'm as a school counselor, I listen to stories all the time. And sometimes what happens is people take those things home with them and then that those things start becoming part of them. So if you are going to choose to help someone, you know what I mean, understand what role you're going to play in that life. And just understand that we are the height of the season. So as coach mentioned earlier, look out for your friends, look to your left and right, see if someone needs some support or see if someone needs a phone call or something like that, and if you can help them, then help them. If not, then point them in the right direction. That's it for me.
Man, this one almost had me at a loss because when speaking about this, like uh, just said, we are in the height of the holiday season, and everyone wants to feel love, but sometimes you don't know what that person is going through. So don't look at it like, man, they ain't called me. They may not have called you, but you thought about them. So if you thought it, you call them. If you want to hear from them, you call them, because stop making it about you. Because yeah, you feel that pain, you feel that hurt, you feel that loneliness, and you want to not feel it. And hearing their voice may help you. So check it out, talk to them, and realize that fixing yourself, fixing your mental, it's not an overnight thing. It's not just like, oh, I can just say a bunch of positive words and affirmations and I'm gonna be good to go. No, because there's some walls that you have to tear down within self also. So do the work. It's worth it, because when you do the work, you can see how it changes you and changes your mental. Now you can help other people. You can help your siblings, your father, your children, because some people are just miserable. And anytime someone that they don't like comes through the door, oh, here she go again. Now the whole atmosphere of the whole house changes because of that. And if you no longer want that, you have to be a buffer between those people. You have to be able to say, hey, that's not what we're doing now. Going into 2024, that's not how we move it. And you nip it in the bud. You don't let it linger. You don't let it stink, because the stench of it will infect everyone around it. So during this season, check on people. Don't make it about you. Make it about you afterwards if you want to do that. But right now, don't make it about you. Check on people. Check on people that you haven't heard from. Check on people that know you had no concern about, but you may make their day, or you may give them that extra oomph to go on through another day. And you never know what it can spark and stimulate within your relationships.
Man, I agree with everybody's point of view. Um, we talked about this tonight, but we kind of talked about a combination of just depression, is consciously aware of what is going on within the house. I can't stress that piece enough. We need to talk to the people within our houses. We need to kind of familiarize ourselves with these signs and symptoms: feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure in activities once enjoyed, changes in appetite, changes in sleep, loss of energy or increased fatigue, increase in purposeless or physical activity, feeling worthless, difficulty thinking, and thoughts of suicide, those are significant symptoms that we need to be consciously aware of in the people that we say that we love. It's not just the people in our house, it is the people that we surround ourselves with. The more time you spend with people, the more you understand their mannerisms. Pay close attention. There are certain seasons to where suicide is high. We need to understand what those seasons are. We need to understand what it's like when people are not around their loved ones. We need to understand, especially for us in those particular areas, right? We need to understand, like, when the seasons change, does this person mood change? Do they feel like they don't want to do anything? Do they recluse and stay in the house? Like, I'm a natural recluse. So don't use me for an example, right? But if they're recluse and like to stay in the house, we need to understand that. We need to understand if this is an abnormal way of life. It is important for us to do the necessary work. Make yourself a little uncomfortable if it helps to save another person's life. There's nothing wrong with that. We're supposed to esteem others higher than ourselves. So, that being said, listen, I want to make sure that I appreciate each and every one of you, these gentlemen on this panel, each and every one of you that's in the chat. Listen, if I missed you, it was not by it wasn't intentional. It's I'm over here struggle streaming. So that's all it is. But listen, on the behalf of all of my brothers, everybody in the chat, we appreciate you, we value you, and we appreciate you being a part of the community. And if you're not a part of the community yet, go over to totalmindsetshift.com and join us as we continue to carry on this conversation, because I missed my trivia question today, but I bet you're going to see some stuff in the chats about seasonal affective disorder. I'm just kind of predicting the future, but you may see something in the chats about that. So listen, on behalf of these fine gentlemen, on behalf of the people, the wonderful people in the chat, on behalf of the community and the totalmindsetshift.com, we want to applaud each and every one of you, because we are closing out 2023 and we're about to kick in the door of 2024 soon. So I want to kind of say that to each and every one of you. I just want to thank you for persevering. I want to leave it right there. Thank you for persevering. You've done a wonderful job. And if you have not done so yet, give yourself a pat on the back. So listen, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And if you ain't got nothing else going on at 4 o'clock tomorrow, the Georgia Bulldogs going to take on them Alabama elephants. Roll tide. I don't even know how they get roll tide from an elephant. Anyway, look at football next week. Tomorrow. We're going to see you guys next week, 8 p.m. right here. Same time, same bat channel on the Hearts of Men podcast.